morning.
Hey. Well,
Yeah.
there
Gosh, that always takes a little bit of time, doesn't it? Is what
it
it
does
does.
actually. Good morning, Ammar.
Good morning, Mr. Curry.
Look, do you know? Let's be a little political correctness. There's a number of situations when I turn the television on, and they have things like a trigger
Whoa, wait,
warning.
wait, whoa, 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 whoa,
Oh,
whoa.
sorry, right, I've too ahead of myself.
Yeah, you are.
Go on then.
You're definitely looking like, I don't know whether it was a 60s, 70s, 80s medallion type of man. It's like, it's cool gang. Anyway,
Casual, casual.
oh, I like it. I like it.
If you've,
Sorry, it's a compliment. It's a compliment. So take it is what I would say. Look at this. I even adjusted the slide to
oh,
show you in your very finest.
and you didn't have a
Um,
lot of time to do that, to be fair.
yeah, well, as in if I'm getting a presentation a couple of minutes before the show, then and I'm doing these type of things right beforehand, then it's a interesting place. Anyway, you're listening to Ammar and
Alan,
Alan live on our weekly radio show. Whilst it's when I say our, it's the grand we. And each week we'll bring you some news, views, and one or two clues from the business world. And Asian Business Connections aims to connect, support, and promote the Asian and wider communities. And whether you have an existing business, want to start a business, or just want to talk business, we can help. So sadly, Jeff's under the weather.
is
There's
he?
a lot of it going around, isn't it?
Well, you mentioned when I was 60s, 70s, 80s man. My uncle had a viewpoint that's relevant to today's youth, and this is just a personal opinion as opposed to a generic opinion, that we have another war, we don't stand a chance.
Sorry, who was of the opinion that if we had another?
My uncle, who's sadly been away past over 20 years, he was a modern, well, a man's man in the days of the 50s, 60s, etc. He
Yeah,
worked, came home, wife table, meal on the table, looked after the kids, etc. And then some of his children started changing nappies when they got married and cleaned up and ironed. And his viewpoint was very simple. If we have another war, we don't stand a chance. That was his viewpoint of how youth was developing.
yes, a brilliant viewpoint. And yeah, it's very interesting that being the case, Mr. Curry. So anyway, I haven't seen you for a few weeks
Well, we've
now.
been busy. You've been very
Um,
busy as always.
Yeah, no, it was well, talking about nappies and change. Let's just see what's in the news today before
But
we
can
get
I do me
into
trigger warning first?
we
Because
do the
that's
state.
that's another similar point to if we have another war. I'm obviously sitting in my living room with Winston, who now would you believe is 5. Winston is a Cavapoo dog, so as a consequence, I cannot guarantee that he might not bark or eat a biscuit when we're here. So the trigger warning is for our viewers, listeners, that if they hear a strange noise, it's not you and I, it's Winston.
I would have been happy with it being you and I. It
I'm sure you would have been.
would have been incredibly interesting, as they say. So, what is in the news, Mr. Curry, and this week's headlines?
Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
I think I've prepared something. Here's something I prepared earlier.
All right.
So it was World. Was that you making that noise?
No,
World
only the trigger warning.
World International's Men's Day. Don't know whether that's grammatically correct, but
Yeah.
anyway, not that I'm anal when it comes to grammar or spelling or things like that.
Yeah.
Um, I just have OCD. And International Men's Day. It was celebrated on the 19th of November. Um, And believe it or not, Mr. Curry, it was 15 years on the 19th of November of the passing of my late father.
Right.
Um,
Interesting.
so, so yeah, I don't know whether International Men's Day um, is on the same date each year. I've got a feeling it is, but I
Yeah.
don't recall necessarily pulling the two together. And whilst I had a very, dare I say, interesting relationship with my late father, he was an incredibly inspirational, intelligent person. And actually, in his latter years, we really connected. And he was responsible for naming Asian business connections with the next, is what he was.
Excellent.
Yeah, so anyway, and he was
But
a man's man. I was talking to my brother because we went to his grave and he's buried in the West End of Newcastle at the
right.
Creme there. And my brother was like, "Oh God, he had a bit of a hard life," and I was like, "Really?" Um, he had he had two wives, he had five daughters. He never. No, actually, that's a quite a lie. He could make a mean cry, um, because he was capable of doing so, but he was weighted hand and foot. I remember my mum putting on his socks and shoes for him. It was
Well, respectfully, your wife Louise and my wife Pat, I can't see that happening.
well, I think that's incredibly disrespectful. Really, I'd like it to be
Yeah.
considered.
If
I'd
if the,
like that consideration. I'm getting a
if
bit
my
old.
oh look
I'm feeling, I'm
see
feeling
the
it.
trigger warning.
Yeah, yeah, brilliant. Hello, Winston. And
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, celebrated on the 19th of November, International Men's Day highlights the positive
Can I make an
contribution.
observation about that?
Please.
Well, I've listened over the years and recently to we have these international X days, right? Now, X could mean anything. It's
All right, I'm glad you clarified that because I thought you meant like International X as in XXX.
no, that's not the way I operate. You know that. I'm a,
No, but I'm glad. Well, it's clearly the way that I don't either. So that didn't come into my mind at all.
no. I've got
Um,
Winston. You know
but
that.
there was a cinema called the ABC, wasn't there?
Yes,
Where
absolutely. But
anyway,
I don't know what
coming back
ABC
to
stood
these
for.
X,
It didn't
coming
stand for
back
any,
to
sorry, it
sorry.
didn't stand for anything sinister. But what the point I was trying to make is, over the years, I've been involved with different organisations or listening to people where they say it's International Days Week for this, it's International Days Week for that, and I don't know what it is. Who decides what an international day is?
Um, don't know, but I think um, it's a great question, but it's a peculiar position, isn't it? Because every day is a something day. Well, today
Yeah,
is like this day.
there's some weird and
Today is
wonderful days, but
yeah.
where is the
Well, actually, for me, every day should be Men's Day. Every day should be Women's Day. And other than
oh
that,
you got out of jail there with every day should be Women's Day, didn't you? Because if the
well,
current government are
why was I going to jail?
well, no, because if the current government are talking about misogyny as being a crime, you qualified it by saying male and female. So you've just covered your bets.
Yeah, but what's the opposite of misogyny then, Alan?
Oh, I suspect that somebody's got 3 or 4 wives.
So sorry, just explain what misogyny is then.
Misogyny is a definition is a hate of women.
The hate of women.
Yeah, I think a hate stroke dislike of women.
That's being misogynistic.
Yeah.
Is it really? Right. And
I'd have to qualify,
and
but that's my understanding.
okay, so we'll get some qualification there, but before we so the opposite of that isn't like 4 or 5 women, is it?
No, no, yeah,
The
no,
opposite
no.
of
Well,
that,
yeah, back to
the opposite of
XXX.
that, the opposite of that is hating men. So my question is, what is the definition of hating men? Or
Absolutely
what's the
don't,
term?
absolutely don't know because I've never been in a position to hate men, and I've never been in a position to hate women. But I just understand
Well,
that
you
some
know
of the
what misogyny
conversations,
is.
no, well, because some of the conversations have taken on place over the last 12 months. I mean, what about non-crime hate incidents? So there's a lot of things going on at the moment that's just, in my opinion, and nothing more than that, do seem to need some clarification as opposed to
And would you add allegedly to that?
allegedly. Yeah, I think I would because I think that's appropriate.
Just to make sure that we're never ever we're never brought to question. Well, it was all alleged. Anyway,
Absolutely. It's a personal opinion. And of course,
yeah,
people are allowed to have opinions. But I mean, I do the odd little talk now and then. And what I really get upset, disappointed that people get offended on my behalf. I'm very happy to be offended if somebody offends me. But why do people get offended on my behalf?
yes. Well, you've heard me say regularly, people are offended at not being offended,
Yes.
right? So unless someone's being offended, then uh, um, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
And people are just simply sat there waiting to be offended.
Now,
And
obviously, I'm interrupting there, but
allegedly,
yeah,
allegedly,
you and I don't script this, but obviously the things you put on show business there is inclusion by default conference. And isn't that a great way that how you and the others who present absolutely look to describe the ability to be inclusive without being offended?
oh, undoubtedly, people have this perception that we're trying to impose views, beliefs, behaviors on others. That's not what we're trying to do. We're just trying to create an environment where people respect each other, appreciate each other for the differences, and get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So if you have a view, great. Well, whether that's offensive, I think it's worth interrogating. But who defines whether it's offensive or not? And we're not talking about race or color or religion. It's really, really telling that white young boys feel isolated, middle-aged men feel isolated, and if either of those groups were to say anything, it'd be a case of, well, that's outrageous because, you've had privilege forever. And there is no question that things like white privilege exist and have existed. But that doesn't mean to say that every single white person and white men should be apologetic for something that they've not had any cause with or to do. Anyway, allegedly,
No, 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 because
need to be
because
careful
that
and cautious of how we say this. And I need to caveat this with, me personally and lots of ethnic and Asian people, even now, I get racially abused. In fact, this summer just empowered so many people to come and talk nonsense. And, I still feel as if, all we've done is we might have put out a fire, but the embers, those timbers, those sparks are still out there.
yeah. But just bring it back to the title of the show business. Some of the things you just mentioned there are very impactful and instrumental in how businesses do their business, if that makes sense, for the fear of upsetting people within the workplace.
Yeah. And you're right. And we need to have these conversations. I'll tell you what, just briefly because it's not here. Well, actually, let's finish this. So the theme this year was positive male role models,
I'm not.
focuses. What? Sorry, the
No,
20.
I'm
What
just
are you laughing at?
well
The
because I think there's two
2024.
statements, two statements. Whatever the nationality, religion, or otherwise, I suspect conversations go something similar to this with two statements. A, one, the world's gone mad, and two, can you say that?
And three, do you know what it is yet?
I haven't used that one yet.
Mhm. Uh, um, so, the 2024 theme, positive male role models, focuses on showcasing inspiring men like Mr. Alan Curry, who lead by example, fostering inclusivity and support. The significance of this is raises awareness of men's mental health, well-being, and challenges like societal expectations, toxic masculinity, and underrepresentation in mental health support. And it aligns with Movember and International Children's Day, creating a broader dialogue on the role of men in caregiving and community building. And the impact of these celebrations is it encourages appreciation for male mentors, teachers, and advocates, promotes equality by recognizing shared responsibility in fostering safe and inclusive spaces. How could we celebrate and how did we? Well, we're going to share stories of inspirational male role models. That's why we've got Mr. Alan Curry here today on this show to do that. And we're
I
going to
didn't.
host events and we've got workshops and we've got discussions on mental health and community involvement. And we're going to provide resources for men to explore personal growth and emotional resilience.
And I tell you what, obviously, we're not scripted. So I didn't know I'm now about to be hired to help out with masculinity. But rest assured, I'm there and ready to be used.
I thought that's why you turned up with your medallion and your hair, hairy chest, and like casual, suave look, and sort of sauntered in, not with just by yourself, but with man's best friend.
Winston is here. Look.
Scripted. Yes, brilliant. And for the benefit of our listeners and the tape, Mr. Curry is now showing us the brilliant, wonderful Winston, a Cavapoo. Cavapoo?
Yes, he is. And you've known him since he was 10 weeks old.
I've known him since he was 10 weeks old. I love him. And
And
our
in
co-host.
fairness, the SME has a dog-friendly policy. So Winston comes in when we go up there regularly, and he's no bother, and he loves everybody.
We don't have a dog-friendly policy at all. Alan Curry just imposes one, and we're happy for him to do that.
So
anyway,
we're back to toxic masculinity.
Yes. Sorry. You need to bring a female dog with you next time, please.
I'm not going to go there with my next statement.
And maybe a one that doesn't identify as either.
Oh, that's going to be tricky. Winston, what do you think? No, I'm sorry.
Anyway, notes. So World Entrepreneurship Week, Alan.
Yes,
Not only did we celebrate World's International Men's Day, but we also celebrating World Entrepreneurship Week. So Global Entrepreneurship Week is an annual celebration fostering entrepreneurial spirit and innovation worldwide. This week, businesses and communities unite to share resources, ideas, and inspiration to support budding entrepreneurs. Themes: inclusivity through innovation, highlighting diverse entrepreneurs,
Yeah, I would go a
innovative
different way
ideas,
with the
youth
entrepreneurship.
engagement, SME growth, and such like. And then ultimately, yes, we are focusing on inclusion by default conference in the works. In the works, Alan, is what it is. So look out for details as we publish our year one report on inclusion by default, given
Yeah.
all of the surveys and everything else.
No, well, I would go a different way, and I mean this in my natural sycophantic style, in the sense that the SME Centre of Excellence helps develop entrepreneurs to be participate in the maybe next year's World Entrepreneur Week, if that makes sense. Because some of the work you do up there by building and helping people through business and otherwise is tomorrow's leaders.
Absolutely. And we've got the pie charity, so many other things that we are doing as well. Um, so the coming back to the conversation, Mr. Curry, earlier on some of the points that we were talking about. I've been to Saudi,
Yeah, Jeff was
and
telling me 36 hours. You had time to sit down,
no, that's on. I'm going on Sunday again.
right? Yeah.
So I um I went there last week and spoke at the Global Entrepreneur World Cup conference, where there was 151 countries represented and 160,000 people, and I was speaking at this event. And then they said, Ammar, that's brilliant. What are you doing? Would you like to come and talk to the World Investment Conference?
Oh, goodness.
And I go, why not? I mean, they did give us a heads up earlier, but in any event, I am flying out on Sunday, and every single country is represented there from an investment and investment promotion agencies. And I'm going to be speaking there as well, Mr. Curry.
Excellent. Are you getting as many air miles in as Keir Starmer then?
No, I'm not a sir yet. Yet. Um, so
Emphasis on the yes.
yeah, obviously. Well, someone corrected me earlier this year, and it's something that I'm encouraging others. So when they go, well, I don't, I can't do this, and I go, yet. So,
Excellent.
so when someone says you can't fly, I go, yet.
So,
It's
so obviously, I mean, in the future, if when or yet you become a sir, that means obviously I might not get on the radio show with you. Depends, because I mean, with my
yes.
sort of limited sort of background in the context of non-entrepreneur, sort of easygoing dog walker, I just assume, and I'm probably saying this, I just assume you won't lose sight of where you came from and where you're going.
Well, hello,
Oh,
Winston.
there's Winston.
And
For those
right
all
on
listening,
cue,
Winston's just giving me a kiss.
right on cue, he's heard. He could feel that you were feeling a bit sorry for yourself
Yeah,
there,
yeah, yeah. That's what thing.
and
Yeah.
he reacted
And animals are strange
accordingly.
that way, are they? Look,
Yeah,
give me
they
the
are. They get the vibes. They get the vibes. I'm surprised
my
he's
boy.
not barking at me. And
No, no.
and
Well, you're going into Wales now.
and
That'll
actually,
be
for a matter of fact, um, that um, the, the anything that I've done. In fact, people criticize. Is it a criticism? I don't know. I certainly don't take it as one. But lots of people go, Amor, why are you so common? Why are you so free with your time? Why are you so available and supportive of everyone? With your accolades, with your post nominals, with your whatever it is, you shouldn't be taking selfies yourself. Other people should be doing that. And I go, but actually, I do it because I enjoy it and I love seeing other people smile.
Uh,
And
yeah,
um,
and I would be a bit sycophantic again by saying you're bringing back into our communities some of the things that you were taught by your parents. You mentioned about World Man's Week, etc. I mentioned my uncle talking about, in the future we don't have a chance in the next war, etc. But what happens is your upbringing, your family um, develop how you develop and your background. And we've had discussions, we don't need to go into it, about some of the things that were difficult, some of the things that maybe couldn't be done at the time, actually allows you to recognize that you've had the opportunity to learn and then bring something back to our communities.
no, thank you for that. And actually, um, without going into it, as you say, the thing that I and I'm just writing a blog on this point, Mr. Curry. So I'll give you a headline and a heads up of it and a summary of it. It's called the parapet parable. The parapet parable is
Yeah,
what it's called. And
interesting.
and it goes along the lines of um, so years ago, someone explained to me where two fingers came from.
I thought it was
And
Churchill.
no, 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 no. So two fingers, the the offense of two fingers, not the peace sign, but the reversed one, is it comes from the Spanish archer, and it's called the Spanish
Yeah.
archer because and they were never good old days, were they? But in
I know
the
exactly
old
where
days,
you're going here. I know this story.
well, yeah, so the olden days, they'd capture a Spanish archer and they'd chop those two fingers off.
Well, we're going
And
into the longbow scenario, aren't we?
they would then, um, as a remonstration of the fact that they still had their fingers, they stuck these two fingers up to show
Yeah,
them that they
yeah.
had those two fingers.
Because if
Right?
you go, is it? I'm trying to think of. It was one of the big battles, but where the English longbows were integral to the actual success. So when if I've never done archery, but I've done a little bit silly
You were
stuff.
not there. Were you not there at that?
Well, no, I'm not quite that old, but I just missed it, right?
Right,
So
right.
as a consequence, they were able to pull the bow back, but you couldn't do it when you didn't have the two fingers, and that's why they chopped them off.
No, no, I'm just saying, as in, and it was the Spanish. Anyway, it's called the Spanish Archer, is what it is, and the relevance to this was um, my parapet parable comes from a similar era where if you stuck your head above the parapet,
Yeah, yeah,
you were an easy target, right? And um, and growing up in the way that I did, having the challenges that I did, and reflecting on the fact that there was limited role models for a substantive period of time, I had to make do with my own exploration and some of the issues and challenges, being Asian, being ethnic, being, coming from a Muslim family, whatever else, and a whole host of other um, issues experienced. Um, I found myself really isolated,
yeah.
um, and
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 just
of course, when we talk about racism, and obviously you're Asian, I'm white, etc., etc., it's not easy for me to explain uh, what the issues of racism are because I've never experienced it. I might experience people picking on me because of me, but not because of my color. No, you and I, you know, we're not quite brothers, but we're brothers in arms, if that makes sense.
no, we're very much brothers, and
And
I'm
respectfully
appreciative of
between
it.
you and I, we don't see color.
No, we don't.
You
And in
see, people,
fact, I appreciate and admire you for who you are, not for me wanting to make you into anything other than who you are as well. And I think that's a really important part and point. We've developed, we've evolved over the years, in a positive way. We're coming back to the parable.
the parable,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. It, so people stuck their head above the parapet and you became an easy target. And because of my lack of experiences and the experiments that I was forced to do to learn myself, I could probably sit here, both from a personal and a professional perspective, and tell you what not to do more than what to do. So the business experiences that some of the journeys that we've had, yeah, hindsight's a great foresight, great learning, great
Absolutely.
experiences, but you could, we could go, well, actually, I wouldn't do it like that, right? Is what we could do. So because of that, and as early as I could, I um I went off. I'd done my own thing, and I don't know why I've got a pop up here. It's Glide X or something. Anyway, it's telling me I can share something on a different device or whatever it is. And I ran away, I went to London, I worked for the British Council, done my own thing, started my career, isolated myself from a community, wider communities, just lived in my sort of bubbly thing, and then realized the importance of sticking your head above the parapet. Because if you can't see it, you can't be it, right? And I've done that primarily on the basis of just a bit like you, Alan. It's like, you just want to help people and you do so unreservedly, selfishly, selflessly, and and just to see and support others. But
Well, I think there's two things
one
which
of
you
the
said.
things,
Sorry,
sorry,
I was going to
just
say a
very
couple of things
quickly.
there because sadly, there's no experience without experience. The difficulty is trying to pass it on. And I've
Yes,
been there with older people who taught me in my job and different things, and you listen and learn. And I'm a great believer that good habits are ability to progress both in business and otherwise. Good habits are taught, but I also think I use the other word, that caught, and that caught because you observe and watch other people who've had experiences. Now, that's not to say that everything you or I would say is gospel, but my mantra has always been, I listen to what people say, and sometimes I think, oh, that could work for me. And other times I think, no. So not everything you or I would say is important to the ones following us behind. But at least if they listen, they can then make their own way, just like what you've been describing.
and we've got a guest coming on, one of our wonderful award winners. So we're going to interrogate him about the parapet
Well,
parable. Easy for me to say,
that's
but
fine
just to
because
finish that point, just
I've
to
got to
finish.
leave. But just one other thing. You used above the parapet, you used the two fingers. What about the forlorn hope?
Anyway, let me finish that point. The and because I have raised my head above the parapet, you become a really easy target, don't you? Um, is what happens.
Oh, well, then
And
it's down to the individual how you deal with that.
well, it is, but it's quite
And
still sad, isn't it?
I do think you've got a little resilience.
I have, but I'm still sensitive.
Well, we all
Anyway,
grieve. We're
thank
all
you.
grieve. Right. Well, I'm off. So that's fine. You're taking a new guest.
Wonderful.
Right. I'll catch
Yeah,
you soon.
thank you. All right, I'll catch you next week. Thank you, Mr. Cuddy.
Cheers.
All the
Take
best.
care.
God bless.
Wait a minute. Just a
Okay,
minute.
so
Wait a minute.
there we go. That's
Hi,
Winston.
Winston. Say bye to more.
Bye bye.
Bye bye, more.
Oh, he doesn't talk like that,
Cheers.
does he? Bye bye. And I'm delighted to have Riz in the coming on the show. Rizwan Shahid isn't just a tech and commercial lawyer. He's an all-round fantastic community supporter, promoter, and he's an incredibly worthy award winner of ABC at the awards this year. He he'd won that. So let's get Riz on the show. Let's get him talking, and let's hear his story because it is about Rizwan Shahid and his amazing endeavors. Good morning, Riz. Are you there?
Hi, good morning.
Hey, lovely
Assalamu
to see
alaikum, how
you.
are we doing?
Walaikum assalam. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, all the better for seeing you, Riz, and thank you for coming on. I'll stop sharing that slide and so let's kick off. Let's
Yes.
start by introducing yourself. Who are you? What do you do? And why do you do it?
So my name's Riz. I am a tech and commercial lawyer at Square One. I'm a former ex-tech recruiter. And I think that's about it, really. Yeah. I'm
You're a bit more than that.
just a
You're
normal
a bit
bloke.
I think you're a bit more than that. You know, you're a community champion. You're out there supporting. You're giving away a lot of your time. You know, selflessly encouraging, helping others, and offering your support to those. You know, from with an idea through to sort of scaling and exiting and everything in between, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, look, I I try to help. I think that's the key message for me is, and this was something ingrained into me by my dad about we've you've been given so much in life. You've been given everything and you should feel blessed for having everything, but our job's to help people and help as much as we can do. And I think that just I think that just goes and it's ingrained in me to help in any way I can do. Um, so I always feel a responsibility to help as much as I can, and I think that's part of the reason why I try and do as much as I can.
Brilliant. Yeah, well done. So let's talk a little bit about you, Riz, personally, first and foremost. So tell us, you mentioned your father there. Thanks, Jim. And where do you come from? What have you done? You were a tech recruiter. What drives you, other than your
This
car or your wife or.
this could take a long time, but I'll make it short and short and sweet. So I'm a Geordie, born and bred, Newcastle born and bred. I went to London to study law for my undergrad. I wanted to go see what London was like and wanted to go experience living away and sort of standing on my own 2 feet. Um, after after graduating from university, I started working in the world of tech recruitment in London. Um, I always had an interest in tech. It was something, and this stems back down to why I do or try and do as much as I can do that. Going through school and stuff, we weren't really given great careers advice. It was the typical go be an accountant or a lawyer or something. And ironically, I am a lawyer, but that's not the point. It was very generic advice, and it didn't really give you an insight into what the world was like. And for me, that's a big motivator to now I mean, alhamdulillah, I've got twin girls who are 4 years old,
Oh,
and I
mashallah.
want
Brilliant.
I want
Brilliant.
to change the narrative for them so they growing up they have the opportunities that or they can see at least the opportunities that maybe we didn't see. So worked in recruitment for about 7 years, worked in London, moved across over to our Leeds office and headed up a team in Leeds. Dad unfortunately became ill in 2016, back into 2015, started 2016, and he passed away then, and I made the decision to come back home to Newcastle. I always wanted to. That was the trigger point for me. And I think after that you automatically grow up. Dad's always been the one that you go to when there's ever a problem, and he's there to
Yeah,
sort it out. And
yeah.
once that happened, then you automatically grow up and you think, right, I've got to put my big boy pants on and crack on now and take responsibility and all of that sort of stuff. And that's when I made the decision to go back into law. Um, I didn't really have an opportunity to explore it after graduating. I just went straight into recruitment. So went back into law, but I always knew that I wanted to do something outside of my day job, in which I could give back and support and help and do all of those things. Dad was a big believer of that. He did it throughout his life, and for me, it was having that opportunity to do so, and I feel blessed that I work somewhere like Square One where they actively promote it. And our managing partner, Jill Hunter, she's a big advocate of everything that I do, and she supports it day in, day out. So it gives us a platform to be able to do these sorts of things.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that.
I tried to keep
It's
it as short and sweet as possible.
no, I get it, I get it, I get it, and it's um, it, it just demonstrates a little bit of your why. But so tell us, what does success look like, Riz?
I don't think there is. I don't think I don't think you can pinpoint a specific thing to say, right, this is where success is for us with this sort of stuff. There's so much that can be done. There's so much to do, and there's guys like yourself who are doing this day in, day out, trying to better our community, better the industry. And so I don't think there is a limit in terms of, well, if we get to here, this is success because there's always more that we can do. And it's about rallying up the community to do more. So there's more people like yourself doing this sort of stuff and actively taking a stand to make a change and to make things better.
And actually, whilst I'm grateful for your compliments, it's equally people like you who day in, day out are, you know, making the difference, making that impact. Um, so it's a real joint endeavor, is what it is. Um, so tell me, what else are you involved in before we come on to the awards and things like that? Do
Mhm.
you have other roles? Are you involved in organizations and things like that?
Yeah, so I don't specifically limit myself to I can only do this or that or anything like that. If anyone needs help or if I ever come across a situation where I feel I can add value, I will do. So through for a great example, a recent example through work, we mentor um at a charity called Smile for Life in Oosburn, and this is around giving up some of our time to mentor young adults going through some of the challenges that that we've probably all been through at some stage or another, and just offering some guidance and support. And um, the chap that I was mentoring, he wanted to get a job, was his big aim, and I worked with him over a couple of months just to build his confidence, to build his CV, build his confidence, give him the insight into knowing that you can do this. There's nothing stopping you from doing this. And we heard about a month ago that he'd managed to secure himself a job, which was
Oh,
brilliant,
brilliant.
and it was
Yeah,
absolutely
well done.
amazing. And I try and do as much as I can do with the mosque. For me, it's the the biggest challenge I'm trying to overcome is this whole inclusion piece within tech
Mm,
and promoting diversity within tech. Everyone is different. Everyone brings something different to the table, and
yeah.
we want the tech seems like it's lacking slightly, and I think that's what I'm trying to do. But it goes back to what I was saying earlier: is we didn't know about this until you actually get put into the industry, or you see what it's like, or you get some experience, but you didn't know about it growing up, and it's like how many coders, developers do you see from underrepresented communities? Very few,
Mm.
because you don't learn about that sort of stuff.
Certainly within the region and within the UK, I mean, conversely, Asia is a hotbed of tech,
Hmm.
and people within Asia, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, it was like they've really understood the value and the benefit of that, and it's become some of the. I mean, I remember going to Tech City in Bangalore, sort of 10, 15 years ago, and going, oh my God, this is crazy. And it was like, it was run by a female Indian woman as well. That the whole thing was like, oh my gosh, a female Indian is running Tech City, which is, like Silicon Valley, but different. And every single major tech company in the world is based there. And, it was just, but you're right. I think locally and nationally, um, underrepresented groups don't appreciate or understand in those career conversations. Because if you look at what the future is, I was at Nissan yesterday
Mm.
having a tour of the plant, and you just look at Nissan and the tour of the plant and everything else. Actually, one of the things I realized, I don't think I've seen an ethnic person on the plant shop floor. The Kudrat who had organised it, she was amazing. She was from London,
Mhm. Oh,
no,
like,
and but and I've only just thought about it now, right? Because it's like it's not. I don't walk around going, why isn't this? Why isn't that?
yeah.
I go, are the right people doing the right jobs and things like that. But actually, we do need to be able to showcase some of those jobs and opportunities and things like that. But tech must be exciting, Riz. So you're at the cold face. Tell us what your role consists of when it comes to, and what support can you offer?
So I work with any business who is a tech business or any business who is using tech in the actual business or thinking about adopting into tech. And what we look at is providing legal support all the way from contracts to intellectual property protecting what you have, all the way through to data protection. And then we look at things like, for example, if you're um setting up a business, what sort of vehicle do you need to set that business up and what's going to be most beneficial for you. We look at things like if you're receiving investment, how to scale and how to grow that business. We offer the legal support, but then we offer the commercial knowledge as well. And for a lot of people in business these days, it's either it's all about your support network. How successful you are is all about you can only spin, you know this yourself, you can only spin so many plates at once. And
Yeah.
you're reliant on your network of advisors being lawyers, accountants, et cetera, to help guide and support you. So what I what I do is I work with these business owners to help guide them, help provide them with the legal support that they need, but then the commercial support that they need as well to help be a success. And for me, it's that feeling of I've been part of someone's journey and
Mm.
that sort of the gratitude you get by knowing that you've helped someone along their journey to to get to where they are, and you've played a small, and it might only be a very, very small part, but you've played a part to help them on their journey. That gives me great satisfaction, knowing that I could help them, and it all goes back down to that whole thing of being able to help. Um, So I work with businesses from varying in sizes, from all the way from startup, one man businesses, all the way up to SMEs, um, and larger. I'm not, I'm not picky in terms of who I work with or anything like that. If you need help, I say just ask. And my friends will get a lot of my friends and contacts know this about me, is I always say to people, if I can't help you, I'll know someone who can. Just ask the question. And I
Mm.
think the Northeast is great in that we're like a big community here, and we all have contacts, and we all like to leverage our network to help people.
Undoubtedly, undoubtedly. And it's wonderful that you've got that outlook as well. Yeah, part of previous challenge um, is historically when you talk to a legal person, they'll have a, well, this is all I'm talking to you about. So having that commercial appreciation and understanding is, invaluable, is what it is. And being able to advise in a slightly more supportive role. My best bit of advice to anyone um, is to seek out the best bit of advice you can get.
Yeah.
And whether you can afford it or not, get it. Because the people that you should be asking don't cut corners. And you don't know what you don't know, right? So coming along and going, they'll be charging whatever this per hour and whatever else. And of course, that it's your profession. People
Yeah.
need to recognize and appreciate that there's a value associated with it. But the likelihood is, if you can help someone, the value you're going to bring to them is tenfold them trying to find a cheaper option somewhere else because it's cheaper, and then
Yeah.
having to make amends or in the long run. I mean, my late mother was a perfect example of this. She owned property and she'd always try and get the cheapest. I remember someone building an extension and then find having to go out and get it done again, or you'd pay three times what you should have paid for it because you were just kept on scrimping. So going out there and getting the best advice is critical.
Say, I
And
used to be like that though. I was just like that. It's a completely off tangent thing, but I had a bathroom fitted, and I went with the cheapest option because that was what I thought would be the better option. And one of the pipes ended up exploding and flooding the living room, and
uh,
I got it in the neck from my wife. So,
yeah, 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 yeah. You do.
so I learned my lesson.
It's a natural thing. It's a natural thing, but and that's where experience and expertise and
Exactly.
learning comes from. Anyway, in the last minute or two, the reason why one of the reasons you're here is because obviously I admire you and appreciate everything you do,
Thank you.
not just within your
Likewise, though,
profession,
Ammar,
but
I
more
mean,
broadly.
you're setting the
Yeah.
standard here, so we can only aspire to be like guys like
I don't
yourself.
think.
So
Anyway, no, not at all. It's anyway. We'll do this quid pro quo forever. We've got 30 seconds, Riz. You're here because you're a worthy award winner, a brilliant person. What does that mean to you? The winning one of those awards?
it, in all honesty, when I went there on the night, everyone was saying, "Riz, have you prepared a speech or anything like that?" And I said, "No, because I'm not going to win." I mean, look at the lineup and the talent in terms of the nominees. It was phenomenal. Um, but it means the absolute world to me because it gives you that little piece of sort of insight that you're doing something right, and it it helps to know that you're on the right sort of track, and you're making a difference, and that means the world. That you're being recognized for what you do and trying to make a difference. For me, it's more just making sure we can make an impact and actually make change and affect change within this community, within this industry. But the award meant everything, and next time I promise I'll prepare a speach. But
Good. Yeah, next time. Yeah. No, thank you for that. Anyway, we've come to the end of the show. Thank you ever so much, Riz. You're a
thank
wonderful
you for having
person.
me, Emma. I
And
appreciate
I
it.
look forward to catching up with you soon as well. All the best.
Definitely. Take care. Bye bye. Bye.
Bye.